The strongholds will break, every weapon that forms will shatter and fail. He is our God, He is our faith. Praise is the highway to the throne of God. Praise is the highway to the heart of God. Praise is the highway to the move of God. The rocks will cry out, the oceans will roar, the mountains will bow at the name of the Lord. He is our God, He will be praised. The idols will fall, the strongholds will break, every weapon that forms will shatter and fail. He is our God, He is our faith. Praise is the highway to the throne of God. Praise is the highway to the heart of God. Praise is the highway to the move of God. Praise is the highway to the throne of God. Praise is the highway to the heart of God. Praise is the highway to the move of God. Revival will come, the church will awake. His anthem will chime all over and praise. He is our forever lives. Revival will come, the church will awake. His anthem will chime all over and praise. He is our song, He forever reigns. Praise is the highway to the throne of God. Praise is the highway to the heart of God. Praise is the highway open our mouths and say, Jesus, you are worthy no matter what. You are worthy in every circumstance. You are worthy no matter what's going on around me, no matter what's going on in my family, with people I know, God, that you are worthy, and it breaks things in the Spirit. Because we're saying, even though I can't see it yet, I believe that praise will change things. I believe my breakthrough is coming. I believe, God, that you will deliver me. So as we sing this, we're not only singing just to sing, but literally, God is breaking things. He's changing the atmosphere. He's changing our lives in this moment. So lift up your head, spring wide the gates, break down the walls with a shout of praise. Oh, lift up your voice, pull heaven down. Oh, sing like thunder, make his praises loud. Oh, lift up your head, sing wide the gates, break down the walls, a shout of praise. Lift up your voice, pull heaven down. Oh, sing like thunder, make his praises loud. Lift up your head, sing wide the gates, break down the walls, a shout of praise. Lift up your voice, pull heaven down. Oh, sing like thunder, his praises loud. Praise is the highway to the throne of God. Praise is the highway to the heart of God. Praise is the highway to the move of God. Praise is the highway to the throne of God. Praise is the highway to the heart of God. Praise is the highway to the move of God. I sing praises to your name. Praises to your name. The name that's so much higher than all names. Oh, I sing praises to your name. Praises to your name. The name that's so much higher than all names. Oh, I sing praises to your name. Praises to your name. The name that's so much higher than all names. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted Jesus. I Jesus, our affection, our devotion, poured out on that you.
Can you do me a favor and can you grab the hand of a family member or a friend next to you? In the middle of worship, I just heard God say, like he said to Moses, this is holy ground. And I just saw us in this time just committing our families and our homes and our relationships to holiness. There is a holiness that's born out of a love relationship with Jesus, and it's seeing budded right here in this place. So as you have the hand of the person next to you, can you just pray, God, make our lives holy like you are holy. Before we move on from this place, God, make our lives holy as you are holy, God. Make our families holy, God. Not religious, God. Make them holy, Jesus. Make this church holy, Jesus, like you are holy, Jesus. Because, man, we love you, Jesus. Come on, just for a moment, pray for the person next to you. Pray for the person next to you in this time of transition, in this time, just family members and homes, and for this city, God. Make this city holy like you are holy, Jesus. Our communities and our businesses, God, we love you. We love you. We love you, God. Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on. And if you haven't found someone yet, turn and find somebody to pray with. Turn and find somebody to introduce yourself to. Hi, I'm Jimmy. Let's pray for holiness. Hi, I'm Samuel. Let's pray for holiness. And in this time, identify places of prayer and identify places of community, places of relationship and connection. Yeah. Feel free to ask if there's any place of physical healing needed, like it talks about in James 5, God. If there's those who are in need of physical healing, pray for them. Ask them, do you need any prayer for physical healing? And pray for those things. If you have a psalm, share it with them. If you have a song, share it with them. Yeah. Come on. You are. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Hey, can you partner with me? And I know we've gone a little bit long here, but I just see God being lifted up over this city. Can you take a moment and pray with me for our city? Stretch your hands out to our city of Las Vegas. And I love our city. I love the people in it, both the righteous and the sinners, both friend and enemy. So God, we pray that you would be lifted up in this city. You are worthy of every high place in this city, God. You are worthy of every place of power and glory and honor in this city. And we as a church, we lift you up as a banner spiritually right now in prayer. And we say, we lift you up over this city, God. May all men see you today, Jesus. See and encounter your face in this city, God. We pray open doors over this incredible valley of Las Vegas. Fill it with your glory, God. Fill it with your glory. Fill it with your spirit. Fill it with your face, God. Because we deeply love it, God. Every neighborhood, poor, rich, broken, destitute, prospering, we pray that you would be glorified in every neighborhood, Jesus. Whew, come on. You are King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and we deeply love you today, God. Bless our families in this place, God. Bless the individuals and the singles and the marrieds and the kids upstairs and the youth, God. We love them, we love them, we love them. Can you guys do me a favor and can you just give it up for Jesus today as we finish this time? Yes, Jesus. Come on.
Guys, welcome back to the mountain. We're so excited that you're here with us this morning. I feel like I'm halfway through a resurrection. We got the COVID for Christmas. We were out for a month, and we came back, felt better. It was over. It was gone. Symptoms gone, and then something else came along, and I was out last week. So I feel like this is the best I felt all year, and I'm glad to be spending today with you. So welcome. We're so glad you're here with us. If it's your first time, we just want to let you know that we're honored that you're here visiting with us. We pray that God gives you a blessing in your heart and in your mind and your life for having taken the time to come and worship with us, to come and hear the word that Sam has. We just want to thank you for coming and being a part. We just watched a video about our home groups, and I just wanted to impress upon you again the importance of our home group season. We do a couple times a year, and we may be even squeezing in a third one this year. But homes is our main discipleship thrust here at the mountain. It gives us a chance to get into each other's lives in an informal setting, to get into the house of other people, to get into the lives of other people, to create an atmosphere and an opportunity where the shields can come down and we can get into each other's lives. And we want to invite you to come and be a part of that process. And today we have sign-ups in the lobby. If you are interested in hosting, having people come over to your house, or leading, or both, you can sign up in the lobby. Let us know you have an interest. It's like, if you sign up, it's not like you're locked in and you bought the house. It just means you're interested and you want more information. We'd love to talk with you about that. And if you haven't tried a home yet, I encourage you this season to find a home to try. Look, if you go one time and those people are weird and you don't want to go back, don't go back. It's okay. Like, nobody's going to judge you. Like, you have free will, you have free choice. We just want you to try and see if God does have something there for you to help you in your journey of transformation. Well, as we prepare to give the tithes and the offerings, I just wanted to share with you our gratitude for your partnership in this last year. There's a lot of ups and downs in 2020, a lot of weird changes, not unexpected things, but the faithfulness of the people, your faithfulness to come, to serve, and to give really sustained our family and community through that season. And in 2021, I know we've got a lot of great, exciting things that are coming up. You'll hear more as the weeks go along, but we just want to let you know that we thank you for your partnership. We want to honor you for that. We so appreciate it. So if the ushers would come forward, we'll pray a blessing on our giving time this morning. Father, we just thank you today for this beautiful family that you've put us in the middle of. You know, you said in Psalms that you place the lonely into families. And Lord, you've given us a place where we can have community, where we can come and have iron sharpen iron, where we can have friendships and support and encouragement and hope poured into our lives. So Father, we just pray that you would bless the body, the family as they've gathered here today. Father, we pray you'd bless the gifts of your people, that you'd multiply them and just plug them into life-altering endeavors here at the mountain, Lord. And that we would see change and transformation in the lives of those around us as we're fueled by what it is you're pouring into our lives. Lord, I pray today that you'd bless Sam as he comes and shares with us the word you've placed on his heart. God, I pray right now you'd make us fertile soil to hear and to respond and to change in response to the word that you're bringing. So we just pray this blessing in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
All right. Thanks for your giving. You guys are amazing. Really love you. Love this community. How many of you guys think this community is like absolutely incredible? Yeah, it's extraordinary. Tim takes all the credit for it. But we are grateful for you being here in this community. We love you. If it's your first time here, I am the pastor of the mountain. And my wife was the one that was worshiping with me in worship and is upstairs with her kids. She's amazing. We've got 4 kids. We love Jesus and we love people. That's what this church is about. And I'm proud to be a part of this community. Proud to be here with so many incredible family and friends. And I have really important news for you. I bought a truck this week. So I'm a truck guy, huh? How about that, yeah? It was funny because it was parked in front of my house, and then we had some friends over, and none of them thought it was mine, and everyone thought it was everyone else's at the gathering, and I was like, what? I don't come across as a truck guy? Am I not manly enough? I got to grow my beard out, I think. Then I'll be a truck guy again. So I'm excited to be a part of that group and that community. Whether they want me or not, I'm here. So welcome to the mountain. We love having you here. Get plugged into homes. And really this season, grow in your discipling of others. Whatever that looks like. For yourself, be really specific. How in this next 3 or 4 months are you going to grow as a discipler of people? Yeah, because it's important to grow in discipleship, being invested in. It's important to grow in your investing in others as well. There's a special part of growth that exists only in that place. So I want to encourage you in some meaningful, intentional way. Allow God to pull you into a greater expression of discipling others in some meaningful way. You guys down for that? Sweet, awesome. We've been talking about building people this month. And so we're going to continue that narrative and that theme, and we're going to be talking about the design of community found in the Bible. We lead with Jesus always, and Jesus leads us always. So every standard we communicate and teach from the Bible is always meant to be an instigator, provoker, encourager, and edifier of relationship with Jesus. And you got to hear me really, really, really clearly on this. We don't lead with standard. We lead with Jesus. Jesus creates a standard of excellence in us. You guys tracking with me? Because as I unpack standard in community and design of community, we cannot lose the context of all of it, the motivator of all of it, the blood of Jesus, the grace of Jesus that creates all of it. It's all led and designed by and created by Jesus. So as we talk about the design in community, what community actually looks like, especially church and Christian community, and what maybe even leadership looks like, we must remember that this is Jesus at the beginning and the end of all of it. He is the context of our life. He is the picture of beautiful, beautiful model of who we are to be, who we have become, and he is the juice and the power behind all of it. You guys like that word, the juice? It's not in the Bible, that word specifically, but resurrection power is, and so we'll call that the juice. Titus 2, that's where we're going to start. Titus 2, if you're a follow along Bible kind of person, Titus 2, we're going to dabble around a little bit of this verse here. We'll be in 1 Timothy 3, also 1 Timothy 3 again, and then 1 Timothy 3 again, and then one more time, and then we may get into 1 Peter 5 and Acts 6. But all of this is going to be talking and speaking from scriptures that are actually communicating about what community design is and looks like. So there are biblical standards of community design, and there are modern applications of church community. I read the entire list, and it actually took a while in the first service, but I think I'm going to read some of it to you guys again as well. Because I don't know if you know this, but the Bible times, they weren't exactly like our times. So like there were no online services. Everyone has an online service now, including us. And there was no online giving. Now there's online giving. Just to say a few things, the modern church has a few more nuts and bolts that have been tied to it as far as accessory pieces, but the character and the integrity is the same. Yes, so there's all these swirling parts, but the character and the integrity of church community has been designed by the Bible, still resonates today, is still the foundation and the significance of all we do. So all the things we find in modern church expression, and I've got a list here, you've got media, online services and graphics, you've got children's care, You've got the events that go into the children's care. And then you've got the programs that go into that, like VBS and or other things. You've got discipleship programs for all of the types of people. Singles, marrieds, young marrieds, old marrieds, men, women, youth, children. You've got discipleship for every demographic you could ever imagine. And every type of style and trend you could ever imagine. You've got full church events like park days or conferences and seminars and leadership. You've got payroll. I don't know if you know that, but like the church is an entity, so it actually has like business features to it. They're super exciting. Like, they are the time of your life. If you ever wanted to volunteer in them, God bless you. It's amazing. But there's things like payroll, admin efforts, insurances, accounting. Thank you, Alicia. Mortgage, rent, lease. You've got maintenance. What a glorious, glorious role in community. Cleaning, mopping floors, taking out trash. I took out 2 trash cans this morning. That was fun. Sermons, themes, and etc. That's the glory piece there. I'm also doing that now. I did both. Merch. Modern churches have to have merch. If you don't have merch, you are probably not following Jesus. Then you've got to the real juice of it all. You got outreach, evangelism. I visited the women's center that helps save unborn children's lives, babies' lives. It was amazing. It was awesome. Several people donate and commit in this place to volunteering there. But there's all kinds of outreaches, including that, including feeding the homeless, including orphans and widows and the whole 9 yards, the foster program. Anybody that fosters is an absolute saint in this place. I love you. You're amazing. I'm going to do the same thing one day. But there's all these aspects to outreach that you see. And then the list goes on and on and on. Adult ministries are long list. You've got women's ministries, men's ministries, young adult ministries, singles, marrieds, married with kids, married with different ages of kids, youth and young newborns. You've got prayer meetings. Let's not forget to pray. You've got worship nights, because that's not quite a prayer meeting. It's a little different, more music. And then you've got prophetic trainings or fivefold trainings, because you got to train the fivefold. You got to train the prophetic, because if you're not hearing from God, what are you doing? You've got supernatural nights, little different than the prophetic ones. You're looking more at physical healing, maybe even emotional healing. And then you've got teachings or Sunday schools. We have yet to do a Sunday school class. That's because we don't have a room for it. But one day we may do that classic thing you do where another group of adults goes upstairs and they're taught. But there's just no worship, there's more food. You've got businessmen and you've got women, business women gatherings, because you want to train the businessmen and businesswomen. And also, if you do that, maybe more rich people go to your church. You've got... I'm always spilling the secrets of this stuff. Trainings or educational items in leadership, because you've got to train leadership, because you're only going to go as far as your leadership standard is, right? So you've got trainings that you got to do there. Then you've got baptisms, because that's kind of important. You need to do that. How often? When do you do it? What tub do you use? Is the water dirty? Is it clean? Is it warm? Is it cold? I prefer dirty and cold. It's more spiritual. And then you have new visitor follow-up and assimilation. These are all part of like modern church things. Churches want to do these things, I promise you. And then if you're really crushing it, you also have something like a first steps class, which tells you what are the next steps after you get saved. That's just some of the list. I'm tired. Half of us are bored after half of that list. I lost half of the room to reading that list. There it is. But the reality is that that's what we've come up with for some of the programs and schemes and approaches and strategies to building the modern church. But I'll tell you this right now. Those programs, they aren't the sacred bit that is found in church community design in the Bible. And that as we approach what is the community design in the Bible, you'll notice it's not about the activities and the approaches or strategies of program. It's about the character and the integrity of who the people are. It's about the character and the integrity of who we are. It's not about whether we have this program or that program. It's about the kind of people we are that really matters. Are we honest? That will make for a really, really good thing. It's not whether or not we have beautiful graphics, because we get beautiful graphics and beautiful videos, but if we are of corrupt character and we are absent of good character, what does it matter? It means nothing. It's a sexy face with corrupt content inside. So we don't shine the apple and have the thing rotting on the inside. What we're focused on, and what we're going to focus on in Titus and in 1 Timothy, is that the community design, as we look at it biblically, is always about the actual content of the people. The people make up great things. They do great things. They come up with great ideas. There's nothing wrong with programs. There's nothing wrong with First Steps class. But there is a problem with having all of these bells and whistles and having no character and integrity. So we build people. We build character in people, because that's what Jesus is doing in me. It's what he's doing in you. Let's read in Titus 2, 1 through 15. But as for you, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine. Doctrine being beliefs. Like, what do you believe and why? It is important, and you ought to speak it. That the older men be sober. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. It's not theoretical ideas here. They're actually really specific and direct things that the Bible forms and shapes and directly says about community design. It says older men. Now, I don't know if you think of yourself as an older man or not. The Bible doesn't really actually say when that older men thing happens. Like, you know that, like, the Bible's not like older men starts at 30, or it doesn't, older men doesn't start at 40 or 50 or 60. It says older men. So relative to another person's age. Are you an older man than another man? Then in some context, in some way, you're an older man. And there's a reason why it makes it a comparative age. It's because of this. As I spend time in my life, I'm 32 years old, I have 4 kids, and I have a wife. I've been married 11 years. So that's really fun, that's really exciting. That experience in church community and in family has given me a doorway of invitation to walk in wisdom that experience can create. But let's be really, really clear. Experience doesn't always create wisdom. It just gives us an opportunity to find wisdom through our experience. You guys tracking with me? You ever met an experienced person who wasn't wise? Because experience does not guarantee wisdom. It gives great opportunity for wisdom. There's many situations that reveal what could be the person that will deliver wisdom in your life, that being Jesus, or a messenger, an ambassador, or a witness of Jesus. But experience is intended to create this design. So if you're asking the question, am I an older man or am I older women? It's not so much important about the actual day you were born or the age you are, as much as what role has God designed for you to play in community is illustrated right here. It says, older men, be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience. I want to pause right here because it starts talking about older women in a moment. But look at the actual adjectives it uses to describe what older men ought to express. Sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, and patience. In older men, there's supposed to be a pattern that is consistent, that is patient, that has a certain degree of real trust in God, that doesn't show up as panicky and urgent. Have you ever been with somebody who has been through it and they're totally calm? They're totally calm, and maybe you've never been through it, so you're like panicking. You're like, oh, it's all going down from here, man. It's all going down. We're going to get destroyed. We're going to die. It's awful. This is the worst. And then the old guy next to you that's got a ton of wisdom and trust in God is like, I think we'll be all right. And you're like, what are you are you looking? Do you even know what's happening? But they've seen Jesus be faithful in a way that's led them to be patient and led them to be steadfast in their walk with God. They're not prone to panic because they've seen God move. They're not prone to panic because they saw God take them out of Egypt, bring them through the desert and walk them into the promised land. They're not prone to panic because just because Pharaoh's at your heels doesn't mean you're going to die. Just because you don't have food that night doesn't mean God won't bring it in the morning. See, there is a tenured faithfulness, patience that if you walk with God for a long time, you can acquire. So I've started picking up some new hobbies, which I've told you about. Kevin is like a great dirt biker, and he's taught me how to dirt bike. I am below average for sure. But I'll tell you this, it's really interesting. There is certain spots that Kevin and James bring me to that absolutely make me go, oh, I'm going to die here now. And in my head, I'm like, and there's constant panic. You know what I'm talking about? When you're in a really uncomfortable situation, you're just in constant panic. Your brain's flooded. You don't know what to do. You're like, oh no. It's because, see, some of these places I've never been to before, so I don't have the temperament. I'm not sound in my journey. I don't have the patience in the process. I've got, And what do you do when you're in that spot? In climbing and in dirt biking, it's really interesting. You do something over gripping, so you hold on to the handle like it's your life depends on it. And it's actually a really bad thing to do, to get really stiff while you're riding. You know, like a cat falling. It's this exact form, guys. And you're going down the hill, and then meanwhile I look over at Kevin, he's just like cruising, and he's letting the bike move, and he's super, super fluid, and I'm like, he's cruising. And because there's a certain amount of experience has led to a certain patience in the approach, to a certain, well, that bump's not a big deal. You could actually take it in rhythm. And when people in community observe older men and women in this place of patience through trials, it actually teaches them how to approach trials. Are you catching on to what I'm saying right here? The design of community was meant to be, look, older men and women have the character that can be a beacon in community to young men and young women on how to handle crisis situations, on how to handle dry spells of faith, on how to handle absolute relationship blow-ups. How do you trust God perpetually, patiently, and in beautiful temperance? How do you have this, okay, yeah, I see that, I feel it, I hear it, I'm understanding, and I'm aware. But you know what? My trust for God exceeds the panic you have. So look at what experience has allowed me to see and feel, which is that God is always good. And God is always working things out for my good and your good, especially if we love God. What does this become? This becomes a certain demographic of people and a certain amount of time walking with Jesus begins to witness within community of who God actually is. See, older men are meant to be, in this very specific way, a window to a specific nature of Jesus. It's a specific nature of Jesus. Like, it's not only old men who can be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith and love and patience, but it definitely should be found in old men in community, these things. And it goes on to speak to older women. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. That they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands. I really like this part, because you know what I see about women, especially mothers, especially wives? I actually see you guys as gatekeepers to a very important ingredient of love and family. I believe men, husbands, fathers, they have a really important role for sure. We can talk about it. We talked about it a little bit there. But women have this really significant role. They're gatekeepers to a certain family integrity. And it's really important that we understand that moms and wives have a very unique, special role in our families. And it's a champion of love. It's a champion of the actual glue that makes up a family. And it's beautiful to me, and it's amazing, and it's to be celebrated. And you know, there's a part of our human vanity that I don't think us men or women, we don't like the idea of being old. Have you ever? I know this because when I preach sometimes and I say, how many of you are old? Like no one wants to raise their hand. And I get it, right? I understand it. But there's a part of it that's like, it's actually biblically really beautiful to get gray hair. It's like an actual sign of wisdom. It's supposed to be like something that's really beautiful that says this person's lived a certain amount of time, that they've seen a certain amount of things, including God being perpetually good. And in that way, it's supposed to be like a tag. Like, oh, that's a seasoned person who I think might have a really good window into the faithfulness of God. So we can all experience God's faithfulness. But if I've been saved for a year, I have about a year's worth of insight to how faithful God is. If I've been saved for 40 years, I have 40 years of a window of how faithful God is. And whether you like it or don't like it, guess what? 40 is more than one. And if you're actually walking with God, it's that much more time you've seen God do things. You've seen God move. You've learned to really appreciate when God gives you things. And here's a crazy one. You've also learned to appreciate when God takes things from you. We love the God who gives, but we're not all that comfortable with the God who removes. But God is in the business of impartation and deliverance. He's a giver and he's a taker. You just can trust that the things he takes are perfect. Thank you for taking that. I realize now I don't want that. Thank you. And that's unique, right? Because most relationships take selfishly, at least to some degree. I think I'm a good husband, but I think at some points in my marriage I'm selfish. I don't want to be. I repent and I confess to everyone but my wife when I am. But there's moments where even in my effort to have pure Jesus-like love towards my wife, like he loves the church, I recognize places I need to confess and repent, like I was selfish there. Please forgive me. So it's unique to experience Jesus in this way. And it goes on to say, likewise, exhort the young men to be sober-minded, in all things showing yourself to be a pattern of good works. Here's what I really like about this. And I've had a lot of experience being a Christian in church community as a young man. And then as a lot of experience partnering with young men. I was a youth pastor for 8 years. I started actually in young adult ministry when I was a young adult. And then I went to youth ministry, and now I went to the real one, the big one, you know? And then, but in these places, it's interesting, right? Because there's a dynamic of young that can sometimes be despised in church community because it can tend to be irreverent and challenging. Have you noticed young people to be challenging? Some of you don't want to raise your hand because they're next to you, but but there's this challenging aspect to what happens in a young adult, young adult development phase. Now, it's not just a Christian anomaly or phenomenon. It's an actual developmental phase thing that takes place. Psychology studied it over and over again. What you do is you take all of the things that someone or everyone told you was truth, and you test them. You test them, you work them out, and you try them to see if they're actually true. Now, some people do this in a really, really good way, you know? They test it in conversation really honorably. Some people do it by doing all of the things you told them not to do just to see if it's actually bad. And so sometimes we don't like the testing that takes place in a young person, but all the same, what's happening, and we should understand this process, is that they're taking the knowledge of something and they're trying to actually access Jesus' truth. So our partnership with young men and young women should be this, not to teach them about the things they should do, but to teach them about who is the way and why we do the things we do. Again, like I started this entire thing out, lead them to Jesus, not the standard. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through him. So the youth and the young adult phase should no longer be about simply the knowledge of the way, but it should actually be about the way, capital W. Because really, if any advanced, continued, perpetual reinforcement of the religious knowledge and institution of behavior is just going to cause rebellion in a young person, because it's the time they're actually supposed to move from having a relationship with Jesus via their parents to a relationship with Jesus directly. And this could be scary, because it means you're no longer the via point. Which means if you have a really unhealthy perspective, you have become irrelevant to your child's faith journey. That's an unhealthy perspective. You're definitely relevant. You're an edifier, encourager, provoker. You're all the things biblically it sets us out to be with one another, but you're just no longer the gateway. If I'm speaking to the young men or women in this room, walking with Jesus is not a subjective, nuanced thing. It says the pattern of good works, which means the volatility of young behavior must come into alignment with the eternal consistency of Jesus. That Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever, which means that my behavior grows to become more eternally consistent as I follow Jesus. So I follow Jesus, I make it about Jesus, yes, for sure. But as you go along and you follow Jesus, the pattern of your works becomes much more closer and accurate to the pattern of who Jesus is. And if you say you're following Jesus and your pattern is a hot mess, guess what? There's a lack of love. And it's a challenging thing to hear. John says it super well. I mean, he's really intensely in your face. He says, don't tell me you love me. Jesus says in John, don't tell me you love me and then you don't do my commandments. You don't love people. The pattern of good works is seen in the resume of your history. As you follow Jesus, you act, think, feel, talk, and behave like Jesus. That's the pattern of good works. Now, who's the judge of this? Well, I don't see it telling older men and older women to hold the place of judge, jury, and executioner in community. Sometimes, because we can see well, older men and women feel like they've become equipped to be the judge. Bottom line, Jesus is the judge of our lives. He judges the content of our heart. He judges our hearts. He sees it so clearly. Our responsibility as a community is not to pick up the standard bearer job. It's to pick up the actual lift up the name of Jesus. It's to pick up the banner of Jesus. All men flock to Jesus. He creates the standard in people. Are you guys tracking with me right now? Many times we've taken the job description of standard creator in community. It's an overstep of our job description. It's an overstep of what God's community design is. It's what causes a lot of the church ailments that take place in church. If we actually take on the wrong approach, an approach that isn't designed by Jesus, we end up hurting community more so. It's important for us to understand these things. There's really beautiful things that take place in the leadership aspect, which this kind of starts to get into. You know, the Bible talks and uses certain phrases. Have you heard of them? Bishop, deacon, elder. Have you heard of these phrases? Now, me and my friends always used to laugh or make a joke growing up that we didn't want to be called pastor when we became a pastor, if we became a pastor, but we wanted to be called bishop because it sounded cooler. You know what I'm talking about? Bishop Samuel. Doesn't that just have like a little bit of like a, you know what I'm talking about? Even though the acronym of that is BS, but... But these phrases have been in church culture for like literally thousands of years, right? Like bishop, deacon, elder. Like we've heard of these things. When I call elders, like the people in this community that are elders, I call them elders, they cringe. They do one of these numbers like, oh, Mufasa, you know? They're like, it makes it do that one thing right there, because it's like, it has a lot of like association. It's a little bit, it feels a little stiff, right? And even to be called a bishop or a deacon, it's like, this is like ancient language, it's literally ancient. And so sometimes we don't like the associations tied to them, but if we tossed all the associations aside for a moment and simply understood this, is the Bible actually talks about what it means to be a leader in community, right? Like, it actually talks about it. And it uses the phrase of bishop and deacon, but just for a moment, they set the idea of that title aside just for a moment and look at the content of character it actually focuses on. And notice also, it doesn't say like a job description. It describes the character of the person in that position. It doesn't describe the job description. It describes the character of the person. Because again, Jesus is much more concerned and interested in who you actually are, not what you do. Okay, cool. Because you could do a lot of things, right? You could be an usher and a greeter. You can count the money. You can serve for 30 hours a week. And you could do a lot in community. But that doesn't qualify you and or speak to the standard of leadership in community. Because to do many works is not to express the community design God has for leadership. So let's read what that is. 1 Timothy 3, 1-7. This is a faithful saying: if a man desires the position of a bishop, he desires a good work. So first of all, it's actually healthy to desire to be a bishop. Yeah, it's actually really healthy. In in 1 Peter, it speaks to 5. It speaks to the intent you should have. Like, you should have a pure intent. It shouldn't be for power or selfish gain. But it's a good thing to desire, especially in pure desire, to be a bishop or to do these things. A bishop then must be, here's where the list gets really, really steep. Blameless. Whoa, that's really hard. Blameless. The husband of one wife, all right. Temperate, sober-minded, good behavior, hospitable. I think sometimes the hospitable one, I kind of like outsource that to my wife. When somebody comes to my house, I'm like, hey man, that's the fridge, that's the bathroom, make yourself at home. Because that's it after that. You know what I mean? Like, you make a sandwich if you want, like have a drink if you want. My wife like makes cookies. No one asks for them, but she makes cookies. And then we eat all of them. And Jason eats all of them. But it says to be hospitable. And there's reasons why it says these things, right? It says able to teach, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not covetous. One who rules his own house well, having his children in submission with all reverence. And it also speaks in verse 6, not a novice, lest being puffed up with pride, he fall into the same condemnation as the devil. Okay, there's a lot here. And at first when we hear this, I think our first instinct is to go, all right, man, let's write it down. Let's publish it. Let's post it on the wall. Let's tell everybody, unless you're this, you can't do it. You're disqualified. Get out. Kick them off the leadership team. They're out. And so initially when we hear this, we think like, okay, cool, enforce it, right? But enforcement is very much a law-driven concept. It's not meant to be there and published so that we eliminate and destroy everyone that has anything on that list. It's not meant to create hunters and enforcement out of all of us, right? Because then we hold the wrong position in terms of community design. We hold judge position. So the point of this is this: it's to set up a banner of a standard of excellence that exists. And it exists because it creates harmony and it protects community. How many of you guys have experienced a community where there were leaders or a leader that was dynamically not this? How discouraging was it? Super discouraging, right? Sometimes we feel, depending on the church dynamic, like church leadership protected that person because perhaps they were wealthy, or perhaps they had certain gifts or talents that were very, very beneficial to community. I mean, church community experience varies a lot in terms of the amount we compromise this standard for talent. But I think we've all experienced the compromise of church community design that values talent more than it does character. Have you guys experienced that? And there's something volatile and there's something really anti the spirit of Jesus in these places. Because Jesus is both truth and love. So when you have an absence of truth, an absence of true expression of leadership standard, then what you have is you have an anti-Jesus expression. Because Jesus is truth and love. So when we identify these places, oftentimes we get into trying to police them. But the design of this isn't meant to be disqualifying, guilt, condemnation, inducing. It's meant to be an invitation to transformation. So you'll probably get 2 invitations in the mail when you're introduced to the standard of excellence here. The 2 invitations you'll get is the invitation of condemnation, guilt, and shame. And that party's not very fun. I don't encourage you to go to it. But you'll also get an invitation in the mail, and a lot of times it's buried under a lot of junk mail, you know what I mean? And it's the invitation of Jesus through humility and grace to be transformed. That when you recognize you're not that and you're not there, you don't hang your head, drop it down and say, oh, I'll never be. And you don't Eeyore the thing, you know? The reality is that when Jesus actually partners in our life, he doesn't just do it in a theoretical way. He does it in a literal way. Meaning that the pattern of our works grows to be like this. It grows to be incorruptible. It grows to be a certain pattern of works that's excellent and that's righteous. It grows to have these places of leadership expression. The phrase and the standard of bishop ought not be absent from church community, even if we don't call it that title of bishop. What we're really saying here is that there is supposed to be people, human beings that walk around the community and that share life with others that have this composition of character. And it's meant to be a window into who Jesus actually is. It's meant to be an encouraging, edifying provoker in our community. So when somebody is good in such an uncomfortably good way, it's not meant to create shame and insecurity in us. It's meant to create like a, yes, do it in my life as well, Jesus. Do it in my life as well. I said in the first service, and he probably didn't like it, but Jabron, whenever I sit and meet with him and talk with him, he's one of the most patient men of God I've ever met. He prays, and he actually prays. And he doesn't just say, man, brother, I'm praying for you. Oh, hey, I'm going to pray, I guess. And then he doesn't pray. No, when he says I'm praying, he's actually praying. And I spoke to Robert Douglas, who founded ICOV many years ago. And he's been kind of mentoring me and helping me along here. He said, I had this conversation with him, and he's such an amazing man of God. He says to me, brother, this, what you're going through, I'm partnering with you. I'm praying for you. I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to see what God says. And you know, when he said it, I believed him. I did not believe him. But you know, honestly, I was like, if he never called me back again, that's fine too. He texted me like 2 days later, brother, I've been praying for you the last 2 days. I haven't got a clear picture of what God's saying yet, but I'm going to continue to pray. It's like, is this an accident? Is this real? Is this real life? And then a week later, he calls me back. He said, brother, I've been praying for you like an hour a day. And he said, this is what God's been saying. And he shared with me, he talked with me, and he prayed with me on the phone, and he spent time with me. He did multiple times. He hand wrote me letters and sent it in the mail. He sent me handwritten letters with gift cards in envelopes in the mail. I don't know how to send mail anymore, guys. And it was such a witness to the actual nature of God. It was such a window for me into how God actually works. And that's what's supposed to be the design of bishops and deacons and community. It's supposed to be a flesh, real life, standing in front of you window into how Father God operates in our life. That's why there's a list here. Because love looks like something, truth looks like something, the way looks like something. It wasn't meant to be a religious expression. It was meant to be an insightful description of what this beacon actually looks like on earth. Does this make sense? Are you guys tracking with me? You guys tracking with me today? Sweet. Awesome. Deacon's description is in 1 Timothy 3:8. I don't have time for that right now. But I wanted to describe to you and or read 1 Peter 5 before we finish this. The elders who are among you I exhort. I who am a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that will be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but willingly. I highlighted this. Compulsion means somebody else compelled you and really kind of like almost made you do it, maybe even guilted you into doing it. This is the purity of volunteering in church. Do it because you desire to, not because you are compulsed. I think I made that word up. But I think we've all been compulsed at some time or another, yeah? Being compulsed is not very fun. But the Bible actually speaks to why we engage, why we oversee, why we elder this thing, why we shepherd this thing. It's because we're willing and we desire and we have things that are in these descriptions and we're like, yes, I'm excited to jump into the fray, into the fold, and I want to get into this. I'm willing, I'm not compulsed. Maybe invited, but not compulsed. The next thing it says is just a few things. Not for dishonest gain, but eagerly. Nor as being lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. This touches on what I was saying earlier. We're going to finish with this point. Is that we have these illustrations and descriptions of bishops and deacons. And we have this not so that we can lord and judge others who aren't there, but so that we can have an accurate example or model of what it ought to look like. So how do I create it in community? I do it and I am it. That's how it happens. The example is supposed to be powerful to an invitation to transformation and looking similar in a walk with Jesus. Does this make sense? You guys tracking with me today? I know you're quiet and I don't know if you're nervous or I've made you uncomfortable, but I'm just saying, this is the expression and it's meant to be a beacon to the pathway of God. It's meant to be a light and a help and encouragement for you to walk in the path of Jesus. All right, cool. You guys down for that? Let's stand together. Let's finish this time. That was fun. That was fun. So now that everyone's ready to be an elder and a bishop and deacon, we have bishop, elder, deacon signups in the lobby. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, hashtag find time. That's funny. I wanted to focus on this today because when Jesus does personal things in our life, it has community implications. And when we don't allow Jesus to do personal things in our life, it has community implications. All of it speaks to a very intentional, real partnership with Jesus to be more active, more obvious in our lives, to be actually real in our life. And if you could bow your heads and close your eyes. Because what I would love this time to be is a time to see the real character and the spirit of Jesus established in our lives today. Whether it be the first time we've ever seen it or experienced it, or whether it be a continued advancement and growth in our life. Loving and following Jesus looks like something. So with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I want to invite you to follow Jesus in these ways. In the ways found in Titus, in the ways found in 1 Timothy, and in many other scriptures. What I want to invite you to today is to ask God to transform your character. It's such a simple prayer, but it's such a profound journey. And I want to encourage you, because we did a lot in the worship and transition time. I want to encourage you to for sure pray to God yourself individually, but also to partner with 2 or 3 as we finish this time. And worship's going to lead the way. But I definitely want you to gather with 2 or 3 family or friends around you and in a safe way. And to pray and invite God to transform your character and the character of people around you. God, move in our hearts, move in our lives, in such that our character is formed and shaped by you. Come on, yeah. Yeah, I encourage you to pray together with 2 or 3 as worship leads the way.